August 4th, 1986, the International Executive Board, consistent with its constitutional authority, instructed International Union President Richard L. Trumka to call a special international convention to discuss and develop the Union's game plan for the upcoming round of negotiations. For the next 3 months, the Board's proposals were debated in local union halls throughout the coal fields of the United States and Canada. And in October 1986, over 1,500 delegates duly elected from their local unions assembled in Atlanta, Georgia to decide their union's future. Following the convention's opening ceremonies, led by District 20 President Mike Gossett, and the report of the Credentials Committee, Secretary-Treasurer John J. Banovic addressed the delegates on the finances of the union's Selective Strike Fund and on the economic costs of strikes.
In those cases where our members were forced to selectively strike or locked out by their employers, they received monetary and medical benefits to help them outlast the company's determination to extract concessions from the United Mine Workers of America. In all, 96 local unions representing 7,280 UMWA members working for 111 different companies received selective strike benefits since the fund was established. As of August 31st, 1986, the fund has received $91,880,227 in assessments from the membership and officers. It has earned $6,326,026 in interest and other income. It has provided $50,748,985 in monetary and medical benefits to our members called out on selective strike or locked out by their employers. As of August the 31st, 1986, the fund has a balance of $47,457,268. As your Secretary-Treasurer, it is my job to work with numbers every day, and numbers are important, not just to me or to your local financial Secretary-Treasurer, but to every member of this organization. But sometimes we do not pay as much attention to numbers as we should. I have a couple of sets of numbers with me today, and I want you to pay close attention to them, because I think that they put the issue before this convention into the proper context. In fact, these numbers are so important that you should all write them down so you can report on them at your next local union meeting. There are 10 numbers, and I want you to write them down in 3 different columns. The first column is 2.5%, 30%, 100%. Second column, 1,000, 25,000, $25 million. And the number 3. The third column, $200 million, $250 million, and finally, $1 billion. That is 9 zeros. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what those numbers mean. Go back to your first column and put a heading on it. Let's call it assessment. We all know about the 2.5% assessment because everyone here who was working in 1984, 1985 paid it. And that figure is not going to change as a result of this convention. You are not being asked to increase the 2.5% maximum on the selective strike assessment. But you are being asked to remove the cap on that assessment. Why do we need to remove the cap? Well, let's look at the second figure, 30%. Every member here from District 22 might be familiar with that figure because that is the size of the wage cut forced on the copper miners at Newmont Mining Company operations in Utah this year. And what else is a wage cut if it isn't an assessment? Only for those copper miners, instead of being 2.5%, it is 30%. And instead of being used to provide strike benefits to the union members, it is going into the pockets of the company's stockholders. And most importantly, there is no cap on that 30% concession. But what does 30% assessment have to do with us? We did not take any wage cuts in the last contract. We negotiated wage increases. Well, it's simple. Newmont Mining Company owns controlling interest in Peabody Coal Company, the largest single employer of UMWA members and the largest coal company in the United States of America. Now, if any of you don't think that Peabody would take away 30% of your wages, if they could get away with it, you had better call those copper miners in Utah. Because there is no cap, no maximum on the desire of the coal company for concessions or on the amount they would take away from you if they could. Finally, we have the 100% figure. That is the percentage of income our member loses if we are on strike and unable to provide strike benefits. That figure also represents the amount lost if a coal company is successful in breaking the union and permanently replacing our members. Again, look at it as an assessment. Either of those two possibilities would mean that our members would be assessed 100% of their wages and benefits with no cap in the worst case for the rest of their life. The second group of numbers represents the cost of a strike. In round numbers, it costs $1,000 to keep one member on selective strike for 1 month. And in the next rounds of negotiations, we might have 25,000 members on strike at any given time. So it would cost $25 million to provide benefits to those members for 1 month. If we just struck two coal companies, Peabody and Consol, it would cost $16 million a month. The last figure, number 3, represents the number of months we could provide benefits for those 25,000 members if they were called out on selective strike with the present $70 million cap on the strike fund. The last group of numbers represents the extent of economic loss to our members in the event of a national strike. It would cost over $200 million in lost wages alone for a 30-day national strike. The additional loss of medical and other contractual benefits would cost us a minimum of $50 million a month or more. Our membership loses $250 million for every month we are on a national strike. Were we to strike nationally as long as we did in 1977 and 1978, our membership would lose nearly $1 billion. I might add, there is no limit on the length of a national strike, nor is there a cap on the potential economic loss to our members. I know there are brothers and sisters here who say that members of their local union do not like the selective strike fund assessment because they never received any direct benefits from it. I submit that those members are wrong, because the people who have benefited the most from the selective strike fund are our brothers and sisters who did not have to miss a single day's work to get a non-concessionary contract in 1984.
Following the address by Secretary-Treasurer Banovic, Vice President Cecil E. Roberts spoke about the historical importance of the upcoming round of contract negotiations and how they relate to the past historical struggles of all UMWA members for social justice.
Let me tell you about Jay Gould, who was a great railroad magnate of the time. In 1886, 4 years before your great-great-grandfathers and grandfathers came together, he publicly declared, "I can hire one half the working class to kill the other half." Another powerful leader of the trust of that day was wealthy Frederick Townsend Martin. Listen to what he said. "It matters not one iota what political party is in power or what president holds the reign of office. We are not the politicians, nor are we the public thinkers. We are the rich. We own America. God knows how, but we intend to keep it. And I submit to you that the great-grandchild of those trusts are multinational corporations who believe they not only own America, but own the world. In 1902, J.P. Morgan put out the call. He says, I want the United Mine Workers Union wiped out. Wiped out. He didn't hide. He says, I am the very powerful, I am the very rich. Wipe out that union. And I want you to think about this statement. George Bear, president of the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad, said of the striking immigrant miners, they don't suffer. Why, they can't even speak English. The bituminous miners immediately understood that J.P. Morgan's death call for the anthracite miners also in reality included them. These miners responded in the bituminous fields and assessed themselves in 1902 10% of their wages to save the anthracite. What if? What if the bituminous miners had said to their brothers in the anthracite, we're with you, brothers, good luck. What would have happened to the anthracite? Well, I'm telling you what would have happened to them, brothers. J.P. Morgan would have wiped them out. And shortly thereafter, he would have wiped the bituminous miners out too. In 1933, and I tell this to the good brothers in District 25, the anthracite miners assessed themselves to save the bituminous miners in southern West Virginia, and without them having the strength to assess themselves, we wouldn't have a union in southern West Virginia in the bituminous fields. They returned the favor. It came home to them. It came home to them. What if those miners had said in the anthracite, well, we like those guys in West Virginia. I hope they win. Good luck. Send them a letter. That wouldn't get the job done, brother. They had the strength and the courage to do what had to be done in the best interest of the United Mine Workers Union. And I may as well tell you this right now. They knew that the union was better and more important than any one individual in it. And I hate to tell you this, but it's more important than any of you out there today or any other one individual. This union is the most precious thing any of us have. But did you know how the CIO was financed? Oh, I'm getting up into a little more recent history, and there's people in here that knows how that was financed. It's financed by the United Mine Workers Working Membership. John L. Lewis assessed the miners 5% of their wages to organize the United Auto Workers, the United Steel Workers, the textile workers, and every worker across this country that he could bring into a union. What if those miners had said, we won't pay, John, it'd be nice if the auto industry was organized? They didn't say that, because when the president told them he needed something, they stood squarely with him. And if Richard Trumka is going to be successful, you better stand squarely beside him. In 1947, and there are those in this room today that remembers this, the UMWA achieved a tremendous victory. The establishment of the UMWA Health and Retirement Fund. Lewis negotiated that fund not with the coal industry, but with the government under Harry Truman that had seized the mines. In 1947, Lewis struck again in defiance of the Taft-Hartley Act. And this union was fined in 1947 $4 million. $4 million in 1947. And Lewis was fined $20,000 individually. And this membership paid that. What if your fathers, now we're getting just a little closer time, had said to John L., well, John L., we want the health and retirement funds, but we want to publicly set a limit on what we're willing to pay, and we are understanding that by doing so, we have put a price tag on our commitment to this union. Well, I'm here to tell you something. If those brothers in 1947 had a less than full measure of commitment and faith in the power of our organization, millions of our members and their families would have never received 1 penny in medical benefits, nor would they have received 1 penny in pension benefits. Millions of other workers would likewise be without.
Following a lunch recess, the convention reconvened to hear an address by Joseph Misbrenner, president of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers International Union and the son of a UMWA member from Crucible, Pennsylvania.
And if anybody knows anything about multinational corporations, it's got to be your union and the one I represent. Because who do we deal with? We deal with Exxon, Shell, Ohio, DuPont, Conoco, Chevron and Gulf, Occidental, Amoco, Pittston, Aldermar, Diamond Shamrock, Ashland, and I'm sure I forgot a couple. We represent the energy workers of this country, the most powerful industrial complex that has been developed in over 100 years. The oil, coal, and chemical industries of not only now the United States, but the world. I don't know if you've thought about it very much, but if you pick up your newspapers and read about one of these particular companies and their total assets, they represent in capital assets more money individually than 2/3 of the countries that exist throughout this world. You think about that for a minute. We deal with those people on a day-to-day basis. I'll tell you one thing. We're never ever going to be accused of picking on somebody that wasn't our size. In 1988, for the first time in the history of our two unions, we will be looking down the gun barrel at the multinational corporations that control the energy sources of this country and of the world on common expiration dates of our collective bargaining agreements. And we will emerge victorious if cooperation between the two best unions in this country can make it so.
After President Misbrenner's speech and the final report of the Credentials Committee, President Richard L. Trumka reported on the state of the UMWA and what the union will need to secure fair and just contracts in 1987 and 1988.
And I have in my hand what I consider to be a very historic document. The two titans in the energy union movement, the mine workers and the OCAW, have agreed to link themselves with computer and to share information about the multinationals that we each represent their members at. Together, we'll do battle with them, Joe, in 1988, and with this agreement, we'll be better able to beat them as they deserve to be beaten. Should we fail to fight for far greater job opportunities and economic security for our members, we will have walked away from our last best opportunity to do so. We must have a game plan. And this special convention has been called because of that overwhelming necessity. We have presented for your consideration the broad outlines of that game plan. The first part of the plan is to clearly define our goals and to unite our membership behind them. The second step is to provide the union with the necessary tools. We have never and we won't now achieve our goals of job opportunity and economic security by wishing for them. Multinationals are not impressed by wishes. What does impress them is profits. And what impresses them most is increasing profits. Now, there are a number of ways in which they can increase their profitability. They can make capital investments, which increase productivity. They can develop and implement management techniques and mining plans to accomplish the same end. Or they can pay those who work for them less. Now, in our industry, where the price of coal has declined dramatically, increased capital investment is now a high-risk decision. A given company may well have already implemented the different management techniques which result in higher profits. In a labor-intensive industry like ours, the surest way for them to increase their profitability is to take the money from our paychecks. Now, that might impress them, but it sure doesn't impress us. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that the mine workers, one and all, are not going to allow them to take a single thing from us, from our kids, from our dads, from our mothers, or any of our brothers and sisters. Now, the propositions upon which you will be acting, should you approve them, will make a very different kind of impression. They represent a total commitment, not a wish. They represent realistic goals, not a catalog. They represent a union determined to bargain from a position of strength, not weakness. That is the impression that we must make. That is the message that must be sent to each and every one of those multinationals that care to listen, and pound it into those that don't care to listen. Many delegates realistically understand the need for more tools, but they say that they want some sort of cap on the selective strike fund. I would ask those delegates to assume the position of a coal operator for just a minute. Let's say, for the purposes of discussion, that the operator wants to break our union. He must go to the board of directors of the multinational for which he works and present his proposition to them for their approval. He will tell them that he can increase the company's profitability. He will tell them that he can reduce the wages of the company's workers 15, 25, 50%, or whatever. No doubt they will approve his plan. Once a decision is made to attempt to break the union, the multinational involved will place a great deal of money into the fight. Is there anybody here who believes that their company would tell the press what they are willing to spend to break the union? The absolute last people to know from their point of view would be the union. Their intent and their commitment would be the most closely guarded corporate secret. The Pennsylvania Dutch have a saying. It goes, too soon we get old, too late we get smart. To me, it just doesn't make a great deal of sense to inform our adversaries of our exact capacity to act, or of any limitation on the commitments of the United Mine Workers. We are a democratic union. We make policy in a public arena. We must, if we are to be successful, inform the public of our broad intent and our total commitment. We cannot allow the coal operators to defeat us through a simple mathematical calculation. We must force them to deal with new and expanded capabilities. and a rank and file that is 100% committed to winning job opportunities and economic security. Now, our agreement with the oil, chemical, and atomic workers serves as an extremely important symbol of our development of new capabilities. We will soon be negotiating new agreements for our brothers and sisters at Pittsburgh and Midway. For the first time, Chevron Oil will be their parent multinational corporation. Now, we have no working knowledge of Chevron. We have never had business dealings with it. But OCAW has been negotiating contracts for its members at Chevron for 50 years. They will be able to inform us of what tactics and strategies Chevron has used in the past. They will be able to shed light on the decision-making process within the company. They will be able to advise us of the most sensitive pressure points within that corporation. They may even be able to forewarn us of any decision which could be harmful to any of our members. Pittsburgh and Midway employs UMWA members in districts 14, 15, 20, 22, and 23. They have for many years negotiated outside of BCOA. And as a consequence, their bargaining attitudes will reflect the attitudes of Chevron alone, not those of a consensus of coal companies. When Chevron talks, P&M listens. This agreement to share information will not just benefit members who work at Pittsburgh and Midway. For those of us who work at Island Creek, Valley Camp, Arch Mineral, 3 other companies outside of BCOA, the agreement should provide additional intelligence concerning their parents, the Occidental Petroleum, Quaker State, and Ashland Oil Company. Thousands of our members in districts 2, 12, 17, 19, 22, 23, 28, 30, and 31 will also benefit. As I look out on this convention floor, I see all those employed by Consol, owned by DuPont. Old Ben, owned by Standard Oil of Ohio. USX, owner of Marathon. No doubt they and others with similar parent companies will also benefit from our historic agreement. As a matter of course, the UMWA will continue its efforts to force the multinationals to be responsive to the need for social justice on a global scale. Many of you who went through the long, bitter national strike of 1977 and 1978 will remember that when the Union and its membership were desperate for support, moral or otherwise, there was only one area where it came from. It was the labor movement. The labor movement in this country that rallied behind our union. It was the unions affiliated with the AFL-CIO, and it was other independent unions, their local union leadership, and rank-and-file members who organized national support for our membership in our time of need. It was the United Auto Workers who contributed $2 million to our membership. It was the United Steel Workers who contributed $1 million to our membership. It was the Communication Workers of America, the carpenters, the longshoremen, the electrical workers, and many others, too numerous to mention, who contributed millions and millions more to us. At no time in our recent history has the union needed help more than it did during that 111-day strike. When we needed help, when we were faced with extinction, only the labor movement was there. And this union, our union, the Mother Lode, can never afford to forget those tremendous acts of solidarity that were extended towards us. We must have the ability, should it ever become in the best interest of our membership, to merge or affiliate with other labor organizations within the safeguards outlined in this convention's call. Even if it is never utilized, it remains a powerful, powerful tool. And it is only appropriate that prior to our forthcoming struggle, we, the delegates to this special convention, make this clear statement of solidarity to all of our brothers and sisters throughout the labor movement. Brothers and sisters, the future of the union and our members is precarious. Our union cannot survive. Our members cannot prosper without much fairer contractual provisions for job opportunity and economic security. Like any good football team, we need a game plan. We need to have as many different plays as possible in our playbook. We may never use all of them, but putting them in our playbook makes the other side prepare for that possibility. This is not a game, however. Our union's struggle for social justice is never ending. The upcoming negotiations are a critical juncture for our union. We are asking you to prepare our membership and our families for a potentially perilous journey. To embark on such a course, ill-prepared and half-committed, is to invite disaster. The proposed bargaining priorities are not complex. We seek job opportunity, not a featherbed. We seek economic security, not individual wealth. We seek fairness, not victory. We seek a fair and decent contract without a strike if possible. The possibility of achieving these goals, however, is greatly diminished if our union is perceived as weak and divided. Our forefathers at our founding convention said it best when they said, united, united we stand, divided we fall. Brothers and sisters, now is the time to reunite our union. Now is the time to give our members and our negotiators the necessary strength at the bargaining table. Now is the time to give our union and our members the ability to act quickly and decisively should we find ourselves locked in mortal combat with our adversaries. Brothers and sisters, now, right now is the time for us, you and I, we to build a stronger, united mine workers of America. Thank you. The 4 propositions have been moved for adoption by unanimous vote of the Executive Board and the line officers. Those propositions are now subject to debate or question. We'll start in numerical order. The delegate at mic 1.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. John Lutz, Local 1269, District 2. Seems to be some confusion with some of our delegation and also the membership back home, and that is that if we do vote on this package, that 2.5% will be something that's going to last forever. Also, the question of...
excuse me, sir. After you address the question, you're addressing that to the Vice Chair?
Yes.
We have a 5-minute speaking or a 5-minute time limit. I'll allow you to ask that question and have the Vice Chair answer that question numerically, one at a time. Cecil?
The 2.5% assessment will not remain on forever, brothers. The International Executive Board has the full authority to make a determination that there is sufficient funds in the strike fund to support brothers and sisters on strike. They could either reduce the amount of assessment or stop it entirely, brother.
I would add for the edification of the delegation that it would be our full intention after a contract is secured to take just such action. That is the sentiment of the Executive Board. Carry on.
Also, one more thing on the affiliation with another union or the merger. Why is this being considered at this time?
Brothers, it's a clear message to those that would break this union that we will do whatever we must do to preserve the integrity of this organization, and we will fight until we obtain job opportunity and economic security. That is part of the tools that we need to negotiate a fair and decent contract for our membership.
Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you, brother.
Delegate at mic 2.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of the resolutions before us, and I would also like to urge all delegates present, as I am going to urge the delegates I am with, to back you and the other international officers in support of this bill.
Thank you, brother. Delegate at mic 3.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Clifford Crum. I'm representing Local Union 1582 from District 17. I work for U.S. Steel Mining Company. As you probably heard in the papers, U.S. Steel Mining Company is a subsidiary of USX. USX is attempting to milk concessions out of the steel workers. The steel workers gladly said, we'll go back to work for what you're paying us now. USX said, no, we need concessions. So it's no big secret to us who's going to be next. We're going to be next. We need a selective strike fund that's going to be sufficient to carry the load. $70 million is not sufficient.
Brother. Brother at microphone number 4.
Mr. Chairman, Gerald Abbott, District 5, Local Union 688. I move to cease debate.
The Brother Abbott, I appreciate the sentiment of that. I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind to withdraw that at this time so that more delegates have an opportunity to speak on these important issues.
Mr. Chairman, if I withdraw, may I speak on the issue then?
Yes, we'll make that ruling.
I will withdraw my motion.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, one on merging or affiliation. I think it's something we already had. You had with the executive board already had standing there. I think what we do, though, we send a great message out to the co-operators that we're ready to do whatever it takes to win this battle.
Brother Abbott, thank you. Mic number 5.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Kowalo, representing Local Union 6754 in District 5, and I also am a member of the Executive Board of District 5, and I urge my delegation and all of the delegates in here, I'm sure we all know the issues, we've read it, I'm sure we all have the faith and trust in the leadership of this organization, and I urge this membership to give you the tools that you need now, and I rise in support of this, all 4 resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Delegate at mic number 6.
Mr. Chairman, Bob Phelan is my name. I represent Local Union 6243, District 17. At the present time, I happen to be the president of District 17. You spoke earlier regarding multinational corporations. Back about a year or so ago, you spoke about multinational corporations at that time too. And you really educated me by giving me the opportunity to sit down at the negotiating table. I want to tell everybody in this delegation today that it wasn't an easy task. It was not an easy task. A lot of people have said that we haven't won the fight there. I defy anybody to say that, because the damn fight ain't over till it's over. And it's a hell of a long way from being over to A.T. Massey. It's a hell of a long way from being over with any multinational corporation taking this union on and trying to defeat us and trying to destroy us. That will never occur as long as we stand united.
Thank you very much, brother. Delegate at mic. For what purpose does the delegate at mic 5 rise?
Mr. Chairman, Ken Horchachak, representing Local 65, 66, and 6274. Mr. Chairman, the delegate at mic 6 moved to adopt. I would like to second that motion.
Brother, the propositions have been moved by the committee. I appreciate the sentiment of the brother at mic 6 and mic 5. We'll continue debate at this time. They are currently before this delegation for adoption. Thank you, brother. The brother at mic 7.
Paul Housel, Local 1468, District 30. I rise in support of the program that has been presented by the executive officers in the IEB. I would like to say that my members asked us to come here as delegates and deliver a message to the officers and to the convention. District 30 is one of the main areas of contention between the large coal companies and United Mine Workers. Because of that, a lot of our people have had some awfully hard times on the selective strike. We would like for all of you to know this, brothers, that the only thing that stands between us and the loss of this union is the selective strike program at this time. If it were not for that, there would not be a union in District 30 right now. I also want to point out to you this. Sending the executive officers or anyone else in to negotiate with any one of these large corporations without the tools that they need to do the job is just like a man going into a gunfight with a knife. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, we're either going to have to make up our minds if we're going to be a union and if we're going to last, or if we're going to turn tail and run. Now, you haven't got any choices anymore because these companies are not going to give you any choices. Now, either we fight or we run. Now, my members have told me to come here and tell you that they're going to fight. And we expect all of you to do your part, and we're going to do ours. And I thank you.
Thank you, brother. Delegate at mic number 8.
Billy Ray, District 25. The coal operators, they're not putting a price on trying to kick our butts. So why should we put a price in trying to save our own jobs?
Thank you, brother. Delegate at mic 9.
Bob Burchill, Mr. Chairman, Local Union 2268 from Canada. I stand in support of the package in its entirety, and there's a few things I'd like to tell the delegates here. A lot of people have asked us about what's the merger or affiliation going to do to our identity. In the early 50s in Canada, the United Mine Workers were instrumental in forming the Canadian Labour Congress. We are affiliated with them. We're also affiliated with our Federation of Labourers in our provinces. And whenever we have a strike or a problem, they stand behind us and support us.
Thank you, brother. Delegate at mic 10.
Yes, sir. Ron Tiny Pilkerton, District 20, Local 2368. I'd like to move to cease debate.
In order to cease debate, there must be 10% of the delegates rise to even second the motion. Does the chair see 10% rising to support closing of debate?
Yeah. Yes, sir. All right.
The chair does. The chair now needs to see if there is a 2/3 margin in the House to close debate. It takes a 2/3 vote to close debate. All those in favor of closing debate will please stand now.
Yes, sir.
The chair sees 2/3. The proposition will now be put forth to the delegation. Those in favor of the motion will first signify by saying aye. Those that are opposed to the proposition will signify by saying no. Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor of adopting the proposition signify now by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes clearly have it. Brother Henry, please state the nature of your special privilege.
Sir, at this time I would like to propose a motion before this body that prior to leaving here, because of the vast multitudes of people who are watching what we do here, the media that is recording what happens here today, and for posterity, that we leave here with a motion expressing solidarity and support 100% the game plan of our international leadership.
All those in favor of the motion, let the multinationals hear by saying aye now.
Power greater anywhere beneath the sun, yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. And they've taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, but without our brain and muscle not a single wheel will turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong.